Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Iyanla Fix My Life Season 4, Episode 11, which was titled Broken Reality, Neffie and Soullow Part 1. So everyone wants to be a reality star and they have no concept of what is real and what is not, is what Iyanla said as she was opening up this show. So this two-part series is based on Neffeteria, the sister of R&B singer Keisha Cole, and her husband Shelby. And the two have been together for a little over 12 years, and I think they have a total of 5 kids. So the two have lost their home that Keisha had purchased for them. I think it was in the last season of her reality show, where Neffie and her family were part of the cast. And at some point, Shelby moved the family into a condo, but they were evicted after an altercation where he states he was defending her honor. So Shelby says that Neffie spends about $150 a week on alcohol, even though they can't afford it. And Neffie denies that she is an alcoholic and that the stress of their dysfunctional marriage landed Shelby in the hospital with a heart attack. So the two arrive at Iyanla's hotel room, which I am assuming is in the same hotel that their family is now living in. So Iyanla asks, what do they want? And Neffie says that she doesn't want to live like this any longer because they have 5 children and a grandbaby on the way, and that she doesn't want to lose her marriage either. So Iyanla interrupts and repeats the question, letting her know that she just said what she doesn't want. And generally people speak, what becomes their reality. And so she needs to, flip it around and think more positively. Neffie then answers that she wants to find Neffeteria and lose the crazy woman that showed up on reality TV. So Shelby says he loves his wife, but not the part of her that drinks too much. And Neffie cuts him off and says that she's a grown-ass woman and that she'll do what the hell she wants to do. So we got a glimpse at what the issue is, or at least one of the issues in this relationship. When Iyanla brings up what caused them to be evicted, we learn that they were having a party with family and friends that led to an argument. And when Shelby went to pay the rent, the landlord told him to keep the money and that they just wanted them to move out because they were just causing too much drama on the premises. And so this was only a few weeks after he had just been released from the hospital from having the heart attack. So Neffie, she's so argumentative and disrespectful to this man that it's not even funny. And she keeps saying that she has a voice, and when she doesn't like something, she's going to use her voice to express it. And she becomes very aggressive when he says that she loves drama. So Neffie claims to want her husband back, the man who spoiled her and courted her. And Shelby says that he can't do all of that because he is working to provide for his family. And then when he comes home, he has to cook and clean and care for the kids. And so Iyanla asks him, why he does everything when he has a wife. And she then lets him know that this is why he had the heart attack, because he's just doing too damn much. And she asks him, to describe the day he had to move his wife and 5 kids into a hotel room. Shelby says that he felt invisible and like giving up. And so he was basically saying that he's kind of feeling suicidal and doesn't want to live anymore. And as he was expressing, this, he wanted expressing that he wanted to die. Neffie is looking the other way like she ain't hearing what this man is saying. And Iyanla says that her behavior is common in people who don't want to deal with what is happening right in front of them. And I'm thinking this is what happens in murder-suicides. Like, you ain't paying this man no attention and all the signs are on the wall, but you just gonna stay there and pretend like it's not happening. So Neffie claims to not know that she is living with a dead man walking, as Iyanla put it. Iyanla is livid and says the two are not in a marriage, they are in denial. And she adds that they have normalized their dysfunction and that Neffie as a woman is totally out of order, which I agree. When Neffie says she is there to deal with whatever it is Iyanla is seeing that she can't see, Iyanla cuts her off and tells her that she is just totally clueless to what's going on around her. So next, Iyanla asks Neffie to share her love story. And when I tell you, Neffie's face like lit up like a Christmas tree. So I'm thinking she's about to tell some romantic story. But then the girl says that she was 7.5 months pregnant with her son Jalen and had recently divorced, and that while at a party with some teen thug or something that she was dating at the time while she was 7.5 months pregnant, and that it wasn't his baby, she met Shelby and fell in love. I was like, okay. Well, actually, she didn't say she fell in love with him. She said she fell for him. So there's a difference there. So Shelby says he was attracted to Neffie as well because she reminded him of home, which he described as a ghetto thing, a chick with some kids. And I'm like, okay, so there's men out there that are looking for ghetto women with kids. Like, that's what they're attracted to. So he says he fell in love with her immediately, and a short period of time later, he received a call saying that Neffie, her kids, her boyfriend needed a place to stay, so he allowed them to move in with him. Okay, this is like a world that I'm not familiar with, so please forgive me if I appear to be judgmental. I'm not. I'm just like clueless that this kind of foolishness is taking place in the world and that people think this is okay. So anyway, Iyanla, was as baffled and confused by the story as me and probably most of the viewers out there. And so she points out that someone saying you remind them of home may sound cute, but you first need to know what the hell was going on at home before you say, oh, I remind him of home. She said, because home might be a whole lot of crazy. So we are obviously missing a big part of this love story because Neffie said that Shelby was her friend, so who else was she supposed to call? And I'm thinking, okay, how did y'all go from meeting at the party to now y'all so close of friends that he gonna let you and your boyfriend and your kids come crash at his house? Iyanla lets Shelby know he was the director of the drama and brought this nonsense into his life because nobody in their right mind would have done that, and that he also showed that home for him was drama and dysfunction. So Iyanla introduces an exercise to the couple after realizing that their issues manifested from the baggage they brought into the relationship and not the relationship itself. So the exercise was to show them the baggage they carried with them, and each item that they packed was tagged. Well, actually, let me back up. So when they went into the hotel room, she had all these suitcases and carry bags, and then there was like all these clothes and other items on the bed. So they were basically supposed to pick through all this stuff and then tag it with a label that described what the item represented. So whether it represented something from their past, their issues, things that have hurt them, whatever it was, they wrote it on the tag and then they put it into the suitcases or one of the carry bags. And Iyanla decided after that exercise that she was going to take Shelby to her safe house to work with him because she thinks that it would be easier. And Shelby says that he realizes that their issues are bigger than Neffie's alcohol abuse. So he shares with Iyanla that he fathered a child at the age of 12, 2 years after he turned 10, and that his parents parted ways, and then his mom married an aspiring college basketball player who was destined for the NBA. And y'all know I was sitting there waiting on him to drop a name, but he never did. And he said that whoever the guy was like still in college and moved them on the college campus and everything. But then one day his mom just packed up all their stuff and took him and his sister back to Flint, Michigan. But when they were living in Flint, Michigan, that him and his sister was sexually molested by a couple who I guess the mom had friended and was using to watch them, I guess when she went to work or went out or whatever. So Shelby has carried a lot of guilt, for not being able to defend himself and protect his sister from the molesters. And Iyanla lets him know it wasn't his job to be, or his responsibility to protect them, that was their mother's job. And he says that his childhood ended there and he felt like he became powerless in that moment. And so Iyanla encourages him to breathe because he has been holding his breath for over 20 years. And then I was thinking maybe it's more like 30 years because if he became a father at the age of 12 and he's 43 now, yeah, he essentially never had a life. And I'm thinking, my God, and to have carried that all his life and then thinking he had found refuge with this woman, and it just turned out to be a continuation of the craziness in his life. And so he says that his mom made him feel invisible, and then he married someone that brought him the same drama and dysfunction as she did. So Iyanla engages him in another exercise where they relax on the ground, and she is sitting with her legs stretched out while Shelby is laying on his back and has his head resting in her lap. So Iyanla asks him, to describe what broke his heart. Like the first time his heart was broken, what was it? And he says that it was his mom that broke his heart, and it was when he told her that these people were sexually molesting him and his sister, and she told him that he was lying, that it never happened, and that she didn't believe him or tried to protect them. Then Iyanla asks him, what else broke his heart, and he shares that he had a son that was killed at the age of 7 when he was hit by a truck. And then I was kind of like really confused, because then he said that he was 17. But then I was thinking, if you had your child when you were 12 and he was killed when you were 17, then he was 5 when he was killed. But then I started thinking maybe he said 17 by mistake and he was really trying to say 7. So Iyanla tells him that in that moment he became the 7-year-old child that had died, and that he's been stuck there ever since. And so Iyanla then asks him to tell her what he doesn't want her to know, like what's that thing that he's harboring inside. And she embraces him as he begins to cry, uncontrollably. And he says that he's exhausted and wants to give up. So here's the second time that this man is saying that he wants to quit on life and is thinking about suicide. So Iyanla tells him that it is unkind and unloving to expect yourself to do something you've never been taught to do. And I was like, my God, that was powerful. And that he wasn't taught to live, and he was only taught how to survive. So his entire life, he's just been trying to survive in this crazy world that he's been put in. And this is what just drives me crazy about people that have kids. Like, you have people that want to argue and say, it's okay for people to be having kids that they can't support financially, emotionally, physically, or any other kind of way, and that it's okay for them to keep spitting these babies out. But this man is a prime example of two people who should not have been procreating, because they obviously had no clue, and maybe the mother suffered from some kind of mental illness out, and that was why the father left. And then men who abandon their wives and their kids, and then like, I wonder if he ever talked to his dad again, and if the dad knew, what he was going through. And I'm just thinking, coming from a home where, my parents were together and my dad, was always there for us, I don't mean to seem insensitive, but I just can't wrap my brain around people, because like, I'm a single parent, and there was just no way in hell I was going to let my kids suffer from the mistake that I made in choosing the wrong man. I'm getting off on my soapbox again, so let me get back to what happened. So Iyanla points out that 2 million black men in America suffer from mental illness and try to deal with it alone. And she tells Shelby she doesn't think he wants to die, he just hasn't learned how to live. And Shelby is going to spend the next 12 hours in the safe house where there are several women there to take care of him. But I'm thinking, Iyanla, that Neffie come over there and find out you got all the women in the house with her husband, she might beat your ass, so you better be careful. So Neffie comes over. So Iyanla wasn't that crazy. She brought Neffie over and told her, that what she was doing, and she introduces Neffie to Shelby's chef, his masseuse, his wardrobe stylist, and whoever else she had up in there. And so Neffie tells Iyanla that she is not aware of Shelby's pain because he suppresses a lot. And Neffie can look at him and tell that he's worn out, but they never talk about it. So Neffie also believes that because the hurt Shelby has experienced happened before they met, that it's not her issue to deal with. I'm thinking, like, what kind of damn wife are you to see your husband hurting and just feel so disconnected from it? That says a lot about her mentality. So Iyanla asks her, what did her mother teach her about being a woman? And she replies that she wasn't raised by her mother. And then Iyanla was like, okay, well, you had to be raised by somebody. So Neffie replies that she was raised by her grandparents and that it was her grandmother who taught her to use her voice. And Iyanla, asks her if she knows the difference between running her mouth and using her voice. And she tells her that sometimes your voice is silent and can be felt in your movements, that you ain't always got to be talking. So Neffie expresses that the grandmother never taught her anything, that she learned what she learned from watching her grandmother. And what she learned was to stand by your man no matter what, and that to be faithful in your marriage. And so she has stuck by Shelby, even though she is not engaged in the marriage. She has stayed there, and then she is faithful to him, because I don't think she's ever cheated on him before. So Neffie says that she ran away at the age of 16 in search of a relationship with her mother. And you guys met Frankie on the Keisha Cole show, and she's a piece of work. And then Neffie chose to follow the life, of Frankie instead of the life of her grandmother's. And therefore, she ended up in the streets, partying, drinking, and having babies that she couldn't take care of. And so Neffie is just like totally clueless. And at first I thought it was an act, but now I realize that she really is clueless, because this is all she has ever lived and all she's ever known. So she says that Frankie and her aunt have a women's shelter, yet when she and Shelby were put out, they couldn't go live with them. And then Neffie tells Iyanla that the reason she didn't ask them for a place to stay was because her and Shelby have a place, and that they're supposed to be moving into the new house at the end of the week. So in her baggage, Neffie has a veil, but says it represents her marriage. And she has a baby doll that represents her son that died. And she said that he was 3 months old and died of sudden infant death syndrome. And then she breaks down and she's describing to Iyanla how she got up that morning and went and got him out of the crib, and he was stiff. And that she called 911 and they were telling her to perform CPR, but she said she couldn't do it. So her ex-husband came in, and when he tried to do the CPR, that the baby's lips had turned black, and he obviously had already passed away. So Iyanla, she determines that Neffie and Shelby are not soulmates, they are roommates who feed off of one another, and that they have both experienced the death of a child. They were both molested as children, but in order to heal, they have to listen with every inch of their being to the vibrations and what each other is saying and doing. And so she tells Neffie that as women, we don't hear with our ears, that we hear with our hearts. And Iyanla replays the conversation from when Neffie and Shelby told how they met. And she points out that Shelby said he loved her when he first saw her, but Neffie said that she loved him because of the gifts he would give her, that he sent through their mutual friends, and that she never said in the conversation that she actually loved him. So after pointing it out to her, Neffie declares that she does love Shelby, and Iyanla lets her know that was Neffeteria who made that statement and not Neffie. And so Neffie, on the other hand, had simply loved what Shelby was doing for her. And Neffie tries to defend herself by saying all these great things about Shelby, but with each thing, Iyanla points out, but he was doing something for you. He was doing something for you. So she was trying to get her to understand that she loved what he did for her, that she didn't actually love him as a person, or as a, or, that she didn't really love him, like, if he stopped doing all those things for her, if she truly loved him, she would still love him, whether he was giving the gifts or, if he lost his job or whatever was going on, that love would still be there, and she doesn't have that for him. And Iyanla tells Neffie that she fell in love, what he did for her, because she has no clue who he is, and that his heart attacked him, and she never thought to take the pressure off of him. So she gonna damn kill him one way or the other. So the two get into a heated discussion regarding physical abuse that has taken place, and Neffie is angry that Shelby told Iyanla, that she used to physically attack him, because it hasn't happened since the two of them got married. And so Iyanla, explains to her that whether it happened, a day ago, a year ago, or 10 years ago, is still a part of his truth and is a part of his experience with her, and that every time she yells and screams at him and brings drama into his life, he associates that to when she used to hit him. So in that moment, a producer comes in and tells Iyanla that Shelby is upstairs and he needs help, that he is in crisis. And when Iyanla goes up to check on him, he's sitting on the floor in the corner crying and says that he doesn't want to be there and he doesn't want to do this anymore. So that's the third time in this hour that this man has said he wants to give up on life. So let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Leave your comments, rate the video, subscribe to the channel, and I don't know. Like, I just really don't know what to say about this whole thing. And it was a lot to take in. It really was a lot. And I'm thinking, if I was just emotionally drained from watching them talk about it, it has to be a million times worse actually living in this situation. And I just really hope that, Iyanla really don't help these people, but I hope she helps Shelby, because I don't know if this marriage can be saved, but he has got to learn to put himself first. So that's it for me, guys. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.